Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the showdown between the Wood Elves, who shall be led by Mel Gibson. And today, my friends, we face off against the Vampire Coast, who shall be led by Aerocrastic and Count Noctilus atop his mighty scratching post. Now, as far as the build goes, we are going to be going for a bit of a rush build. So here in the front line, it's going to be pretty melee heavy. We have a fair amount of Dryads. In total, I think we have 3 Dryads, and it's going to be 2 War Dancers. So I'm not terribly sold on War Dancers in this matchup. I feel like it's a little bit of overkill, but I was like, let's try them out. Let's see how fast they can cut through, the zombie deckhand mobs, and maybe even be a little bit more efficient against some of the better targets like Mourngulls and things like that, just because they have better combat stats. So it's going to be War Dancers and Dryads here in the front line. We do, of course, have a Branch Wraith as well, which is quite nice if you're going to be going for melee rushes. And let me go ahead and show you why, as Noctilus's cannonballs blast away some of these ladies over here. Definitely not fun for them. But he does have, or she does have, the Call of the Wild, so it does give melee attack to nearby troops, and also a pretty good combatant. You can see there's magic damage, so if your opponent does bring some Sirens or Ghostly units, it is going to be quite good at getting past their defenses. So we have that. In the back, we have a bunch of archers. In total, we have, I think, a couple Hagbane tips, some Starfire Shafts as well. Starfire Shafts, of course, do AP damage as well as fire damage, so pretty good against a multitude of targets, including Luther Harkin. And yeah, I'm just trying them out. Deep Wood Scouts are the more common pick, probably because they can kind of Vanguard, they have better range, and you usually don't need a ton of AP in this matchup, but I was kind of suspecting Arrow might do something a little bit funky, so I did want to try these guys out. In the back, we do have Azurai Spears, 2 groups of Wild Riders, and that is pretty much it. Just a very aggressive army, not looking to kite or kind of try and pick my opponent apart, rather going to be pushing in pretty quickly and trying to put some old school pressure on his army. Now for my Lord choice, it is going to be Mel Gibson. I know he's not the most optimal, but I don't really play Wood Elves often, and the series of battles I actually played with Aerocrastic were with a bunch of factions I don't do terribly often. I'm really trying to diversify a little bit here on the channel because pretty much all my games are like Vampire Coast or Skaven or these factions that I really play quite a bit. But nonetheless, I think Orion's got some teeth for sure. He's got anti-large, he has armor piercing, he can fight crabs, he can fight Noctilus, he can fight Luther, he's very tough to snipe. He also has some decent missile attacks, and yeah, he has some teeth in this matchup. Again, I don't think he's as competitive as the more traditional Wood Elf builds with the Gladies and Glade Lords and things like that, but I still think he's really not bad. He's just a decent character, very, very tough to finish for sure. And now for Arrow's army, very, very cool stuff. He's got an Air Force of Deck Droppers, so in total he has 3 of those. He's got a bunch of Mourngulls as well, Doggos in the back line to pressure my archers, a front line of bombers with 1 group of deckhand mobs, which is going to be the just the Tide of Skilled here. Then he does also have Deck Gunners, like I said. Deck Gunners are, you don't see them terribly often, but they do have good range. They can actually outrange the Wood Elf archers, so they certainly have some viability for sure. Very squishy though. Any sort of focus fire really puts them down. But yeah, it's kind of like a weird build. It like has a lot of elements of a defensive gun line, but then like a counter rushing element with Scurvy Dogs and Mourngulls. But yeah, I mean, it has some teeth for sure, and this is going to be a good battle. Hopefully you guys enjoy this one, and yeah, I can tell you, it's a really fun one. So Mel Gibson here, going to be dropping the Hounds of Mel over here, I think, or the Hawkeyes, or the Talon, or whatever it's called. So we drop that right there, and it takes almost half HP off those Deck Gunners, which I was quite happy about. And then we do also drop the Hounds of Gibson on the other one. So immediately, Mel Gibson taking, half HP off these 2 groups of Deck Gunners. So really good value out of him so far. Now he does have the Bombers in the front line, so definitely don't want to be messing with those guys. So just going to be kind of falling back with my melee lines, using my archers, using Orion to just push in there and cause whatever problems I can for the bombers. So the bombers are being taken out rather quickly. 0 kills on these guys, and bombers definitely have some issues in matchups where there are missile pieces. But my issue, again, that I'm going to be facing in this matchup is the fact that Arrow has so many swarming elements. 4 Scurvy Dogs is going to be super hard to deal with. I do have a couple Wild Riders, but, only 2 of them. There are 4 Scurvy Dogs plus Deck Droppers up in the sky, so this is not going to be easy, that's for sure. So Wild Riders are going to be pushing in to try and screen out the Scurvy Dogs, but I do pull back immediately. Arrow is going after my Wild Riders here with his Deck Droppers, which is a really good choice, taking care of the elements of my army, because you see, I was relying on these guys to kind of defend this position, and then suddenly they're gone. There's going to be Scurvy Dogs coming in, all sorts of mobile elements, and things are looking pretty crunk. Now, as far as the bombers, they're pretty much all done for, and they didn't really do anything, but they did buy some time. I guess they just kind of functioned as basic deckhand mobs here. But all the bombers are pretty much down up in the sky. The arrows are now saturating into the Deck Droppers, which are also taking quite a bit of work, and my Wild Riders are trying to pick off the Doggos, but it looks like Arrow might just go in for an all-in snipe here, using all of his Scurvy Dogs and his Deck Dropper fire to overwhelm my Wild Riders, which is actually working rather well. Very, very impressed by that kind of focus fire from the Deck Droppers. Granted, they are going down rather quickly. You can see up here, of course, the Glade Guard with the Hagbane tips, really peppering into those very squishy bats, and on the far side, we have a pretty good engagement as well. Dryads will do decent damage against the low melee defensive Mourngulls, plus there's also 2 archers shooting into them, but the Doggos get through my Wild Riders, and I was really surprised at how quickly they went down. It was really because Arrow was focusing so well with his Deck Droppers plus Count Noctilus, and that's a lot of firepower for those elf riding dudes. So 2 groups of archers basically just get compromised immediately, which is really disastrous for sure. This is a terrible situation for me. And some summons are going to be going down as well to kind of tar pit my Dryads, hence allowing the dogs to move a little bit more freely. Now over on this side of the battlefield, things are going a little bit better. Some of the Azurai Spears are going to be surging in, getting a great engagement against Mourngulls and a bunch of other units like that. Orion has been helping out, going after Morngulls, and here the Hawk's Talon dropped once more in the back on the deck gunners. And yeah, I didn't have anything mobile to go back here and finish these guys off. That was pretty unfortunate for sure. But again, Arrow did a really good job focusing down my mobile elements of my army. Over here we have War Dancers going fisticuffs with the Morngulls, and the Morngulls, you know, again, have pretty low melee defense, and even though they are monstrous, the War Dancers have a base of 40 melee attack and pretty good DPS in general against light armor, so it's really not a bad situation, and I am able to stabilize 2 of my 4 archers, which is good. I'm able to get them back, they're relatively safe. I do have a group of Wild Riders I'm pulling back to make sure they're secure, and from here I should be able to shoot down the Morngulls and most of the threats here on this side of the battlefield. Over here we do have the Branch Wraith and Company. They were able to clean up a lot of the doggos. You can see some of the scurvy dogs that did commit to combat here are very worn down. The Morngulls are going down, so even though the bounce power is in the favor of Arrow right now, it's actually a very close game. Orion is going to be extremely tough to kill. Very, very tough. He does have the Cloak of Aisha, so when he gets below a very low threshold, I think it's like 20%, I can't quite remember, he gets a 44% ward save and starts healing himself, so he's very tough to kill, and he can easily manhandle Noctilus in combat, so there's something to be considered there. These Morngulls are going down here. The Glade Guard getting some nice firepower into the Morngulls here, so they are being peppered back. In the back, some archers have come back online, but here, of course, Arrow with his doggo play is going to be able to screen out and push down my archers. And those guys won't be coming back. Hounds of GIBSON going into the gunnery mobs here, which were summoned, I believe, yeah. Looks like those guys were indeed summoned. But Orion's doing a pretty good job. He's got his spear, he's getting in here. The Dryads and Company are able to help clean up the Morngulls, a couple of them clawing on to sweet life. But now Orion, the master of the hunt, is going to be falling back with the Dryads, just trying to resecure my archer line, just take up refuge here in the tree line, peel off the Morngulls and these other elements here of the Vampire Coast army, and then from there we can kind of reorient, you know, just kind of restructure our forces and going for the kill on Count Noctilus. On the far side, things are going quite well. The Dryads and the Branch Wraith were able to beat the Morngulls in combat and also the Scurvy Dogs, and now I'm getting a little bit close to actually threatening here against the Deck Gunners. So if the Deck Gunners get shut down, that is going to be a way for me to get back in this game. The Deck Gunners, of course, are trying to snipe down Orion. He's nowhere near his healing cap, which is good for me, which means I'm going to have plenty of healing this game. But nonetheless, trying to snipe out that bad boy because that's pretty much the only answer I have here against Count Noctilus. My archers have been shooting quite happily this whole game. You can see I'm out of ammo here. The other ones are at about 10% ammunition. So the ammunition here isn't going to be enough to finish off Noctilus. I basically just need Orion to be a hero, and as long as he's like 15-20% HP, he should be able to beat Noctilus in combat. He is unbreakable, of course, which is also quite nice. Nice little summon going down there from Arrow is going to be kind of parting my archers here as the Deck Droppers do also unleash a salvo of fire. And up in the sky, you can see there is going to be a Wraith Storm being called down. So Mel Gibson is currently at 1900 HP. Ooh, brutal stuff. And I was still trying to dodge that as well, but down to 1000, that does like 900 damage and puts me danger close to army losses. Now in the back here, the Dryads are pushing in, going after the very slow Deck Gunners. 23 speed? Yeah, 23 speed on those guys, and 36 on the Dryads. Also, the Branch Wraith is coming as well, but it looks like Noctilus has turned around and is dropping some heavy firepower here on the Dryads, which they're certainly not going to enjoy. They don't love the industry here of the Vampire Coast, but an Earthblood is going to be going down as well, and we do get intercepted by the Doggos, but the Doggos are now going to be finished, which is another mobile threat I won't really have to worry about. In the meantime, some Scurvy Dogs are trying to get into my archer line once again, but the Wild Riders are able to chase them down pretty efficiently. Orion also comes in, so we get a good charge here. Scurvy Dogs are going down in pretty substantial numbers. Granted, that Noctilus firepower, very, very nasty stuff. And he is able to get some archers. Granted, they're out of ammo now, so it's not really a huge deal to lose those guys. Now, if we look back here, the Dryads unfortunately get pushed off, but the Branch Wraith is a little bit more resilient and tenacious, and she is able to go in there and get on top of the Deck Gunners, who are losing models rather quickly, and thankfully I do have a little bit of a tree line to hide in. I feel like I'm playing 40k ITC, where I'm like trying to find the one building in the middle of the board here to hide behind, which is pretty funny. Scurvy Dogs here are crumbling. The other Scurvy Dogs are in okay shape. It looks like they have 25 of their 60 models, so in pretty good fighting shape those doggos are. And Orion is able to finish off those ones right there. And he does, have about 1000 HP. And you can see he's healing. So the firepower coming in here. Arrow did use the summon here from Count Noctilus with the Zombie Pirate Gunnery mobs to kind of shoot downtown against my poor Orion. And I'm just trying to get away. Trying to unite with the Branch Wraith to get that kind of a cohesive fighting unit. The Branch Wraith, of course, will also buff the melee attack of Orion. And I really need to shut down these Deck Gunners to, of course, get back in this game. And even though the bounce power is pretty much point of no return, it looks like right now, as it would be normally for a typical game, the fact that Orion's unbreakable and that he has a super good matchup against Noctilus is really strong. For example, if I can finish the Scurvy Dogs, and for example, if Arrow doesn't have any more summons, I mean, Orion at this point, even with 1000 HP and that healing, could probably potentially beat Noctilus in combat. So here you can see the Hawk's Talon is going to be going down, doing okay damage here against the Deck Gunners, at the very least putting their leadership down low. So they may crumble soon. Orion's trying to juke a little bit. Branch Wraith is able to finish off this group of Deck Gunners here. Those guys are crumbling into the Shadow Realm, and here comes Orion going in. There goes my hero. Just charging in there, going after the Deck Gunners. And here comes the Lancing Shot. Should be able to take out a couple of those guys. It looks like some of the Deck Gunners up in the sky are here, but they're about out of ammo. And I believe I do have an Earthblood here as well. So something that is a bit of an issue for me is I could get close to army losses, which means, despite the fact that I still have a decent chance in this game, the Branch Wraith might run, despite being very healthy, which would be an absolute disaster. So now we're in pretty good shape here. We're going to be going after Count Noctis. He's full health here. Orion has about 1,000 HP. He is getting a little bit danger close to his healing cap here. And the bats up in the sky are now out of ammo, as is Noctilus. So some of my Dryads here are going to be engaging against the gunnery mobs, trying to keep them from shooting Old Mel. But you can see since we last looked, I mean, from the beginning of this engagement, Noctilus has already lost like 1,000 HP in this duel, and Orion's taken only like 200, so pretty good situation for him for sure. However, the summons in the back pocket here are going to be really nasty because it's a volume of fire thing against Orion. Just kind of peppering him down, it gets through the ward save relatively efficiently because 44% resist on something like this is like pretty insignificant. I mean, it's still really good, but you can see here, I'm trying to get around the back of Count Noctilus. Basically, I know if I can get behind him, it'll slightly obstruct these guys, and it's going to be a little bit tougher to pop me, but nonetheless, I mean, the fact that Arrow saved these summons here in the late game is huge. I mean, that's going to give him a huge punch here, because if he didn't have the summons and he was just forced to fight me fisticuffs here, I'm pretty sure that, you know, I mean, yeah, I'm a little bit beat up now, but I had about 1,000 HP. It could have been a situation where Orion and the Branch Wraith might have been able to pull this back, but the summon is probably going to spell doom, especially with the doggos coming in. You can see here, 469, 473, that self-healing, very, very powerful. Noctilus is down to about 6,000 HP, of course, does have the hunger, if I'm not mistaken, does he? I don't know if he does when he's on that beast. Yeah, it looks like he doesn't. So he's not going to be healing himself. Nonetheless, Orion down to about 255, and another summon was here. So Arrow, that's a really smart thing. For anyone who's a Vampire Coast player, be very careful not to blow all of your summons early in just kind of a panic situation when things are going a little bit bad. Be patient, and it can really pay off, because without those summons, Orion and the Branch Wraith probably could have won that game. But the fact that he had the summons, I mean, super clutch. Very good discipline here by Arrow. Very, very good play. And he was able to get those off in the late game and blast down, you know, the mighty Mel Gibson. So very well played. His build was awesome. It was very unorthodox for sure. But, you know, many elements of it were very, like, kind of mix and match, and it was a little bit tricky to kind of manage everything. There was constant pressure from the deck gunners and Count Noctilus on my Wild Riders, and then the Morngulls and the dogs came in. It was just so much stuff. A very, very close game, of course. A little bit of sloppy play from my archers for sure. I probably should have allocated some infantry back there to kind of protect them. But nonetheless, I mean, he did a great job. And that was a really fun game. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this Wood Elf vs Vampire Coast game. And again, guys, I will be making more of an effort to play factions. I don't play terribly often, including a lot of the elf factions, because I know you guys probably want to see them. I'm not the best at them, but again, I can still, you know, put up a decent fight. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this Wood Elf vs Vampire Coast game. And on that note, guys, I will see you on the other side, and take care.